Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so that potential buyers can learn more about the business and the seller to help them make an informed buying decision. If you would like to learn more about this business, including details like what type of business it is, how much revenue and profit it makes, and all of the assets included with the business, simply visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for this business's listing number, which you can find in the video thumbnail and in the description. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. So without further ado, let's get into this interview. First up, let's learn a little bit about you. Can you tell us about your background in building and running online businesses?
In about 2008, I started developing websites as a hobby. I was interested in web development and programming, and I started thinking this could be a way to make a living. I started out as a developer, working for a few nonprofits who later became my bigger clients. One of them, Why Hunger, and the other, the Union for Reform Judaism. I left those two organizations and retained them as my clients and worked as a contractor for them for the past almost 10 years now. During the time, I've been building my business and added a hosting component where I host various websites for different organizations, businesses, and nonprofits. We provide different support packages for them, and most of the work is done through a remote team that I've built over the past few years. Most of the clients are pretty loyal. We do have a pretty good retention rate, though once in a while, as expected, a client will leave and no longer need our services. But for the most part, business is pretty steady.
Why are you selling the business now instead of keeping it and growing it further?
I think there's a lot of room to grow the business. I've never really done any marketing or any type of advertising. Most of the work I've gotten and the clients I've retained have been through word of mouth. That said, I think there is room to grow. The sector's changed a bit since in the past few years, but there's still need for good developers and programmers. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. The main reason I'm selling is I'm just ready to move on and try other things, pursuing different types of businesses. And my family's getting older and they're moving away. So my wife and I are just looking to retire and try and pursue other things in our life.
Can you describe the amount and the type of work that you do on this business to maintain it?
The amount of work that we do for this business is mostly maintenance. I think I'd say I spend maybe 5 to 10 hours a week just managing the remote team, triaging some tickets from clients. And then once in a while, we'll have a big project that comes through and it'll take a little bit more hands-on approach from me. But the remote team does pretty well. They just need a little bit of hand-holding, and you have to kind of act as an interface between them and the client. But any good stateside project manager, or if you already have someone who's a good office manager or someone on your staff, you can take over the business and run it pretty minimally without any type of real overhead or any type of problems. I would say now a lot of the work is just bookkeeping, which I'm quite horrible at, but making sure the invoices go out, that clients are paying, that things are running smoothly. There aren't any people who are, some tickets that might have been missed. You need to follow up with them and see what's going on. That's about it.
So if you were to keep this business, what are some of the ways you would try to grow it?
I think one way I would actually try to grow the business is to take on a partner and someone who can, has some connections, does similar work. maybe has some more experience with search engine optimization, someone who can run some advertising campaigns, and also having another stateside employee nearby who could help with the daily, day-to-day work. If you already have someone like that, this would probably be a good little project for them to work on if you wanted to try and grow it. Also, networking events, if I felt like it. I think there's a lot of opportunity in New York for this kind of stuff. A lot of small businesses, a lot of nonprofits looking for development work. A lot of the work we get is word of mouth. So those things will keep coming in. And I think doing good work and being friendly and working with the client in a positive way, that just helps build the brand awareness and lets people know about you, and word spreads, and then you continue to get more work. So a lot of it would be just kind of doing it as I'm doing it and continue to slowly grow.
Right. And what would you say are the biggest risks with this business that buyers should be aware of?
In this type of business, honestly, the thing that, or the biggest risk really, is, your clients aren't wedded to you in any special way besides that they know you and you do good work. Clients can leave you at any time. I had a big client previously last year who passed away, and they ended the organization because of that. So you never know, life happens and people move on, and sometimes the organization will close down, or a client will just no longer need your service. So that's pretty much the biggest risk, is losing a client. And honestly, because there's a big concentration of clients and just two for this business, basically 2/3 is, Why Hunger and Union for Reform Judaism. And then the other third is the hosting, the smaller clients. If Union for Reform Judaism or Why Hunger decides they no longer want to work with us, then, that could be a risk. We're pretty straightforward about that going into this. I think they won't leave for another like 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. They still need someone to maintain their sites and to do the work. And as long as we don't mess up any big way, I think it's pretty much guaranteed work for the next decade or so.
How much support are you willing to offer the buyer who acquires this business?
I'm willing to work with any buyer and help support them during the transition. I think there's a few models we could follow. One would be to just say that, to tell the clients, hey, I'm taking on a new partner. I could introduce the new buyer as, my business partner, and we can just kind of start transferring all the accounts and contracts and everything to the new buyer as a partner. And then I'll slowly step away from the business, maybe take on a founder role. So my name is still attached to the business, but, in case the clients, a lot of them have a personal sort of relationship with me. So I don't honestly know how big a problem that will be, but, that's a risk that I just mentioned earlier. So I think we can find a way, with a serious buyer to work together and try and mitigate some of those issues and, basically comfort the clients that I'm still here, but, I'm transitioning to a different role and I have a partner who's really good and we'll be able to continue the work that we're doing. I'm open to any type of model, and, the buyer can feel free to suggest ideas as well.
Are you open to negotiating something like an earnout agreement?
I think at this price, the business is, it's pretty personal to me. I put a lot of work into it. And for this price, I think I'd be open to an earnout payment structure, but we'd have to discuss the terms. I'm really looking for a one-time payout and kind of move away from the business, as I mentioned earlier. But maybe if there was a shorter time frame, like maybe 6 months instead of like the usual year or 5 years, I'd be open to something like that, maybe a transition. But if the buyer is serious and if you're serious about purchasing, we can work something out, I think.
Okay, final question. If you had to put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why is your business a business worth buying?
I think the business is worth buying mostly because it's pretty hands-off. Everything's been built up. The client roster is pretty strong. A lot of recurring payments, monthly, yearly. You just have to invoice some. A lot of them will just automatically be paid, like for the hosting. So there's a good client roster. The reputation of the business is strong. There's good word of mouth. People will come back for more work. That's pretty much guaranteed income. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think, besides the risk that I talked about earlier, it's a pretty solid deal, I think. And you would make out pretty well over the period of a few years or longer. The amount of work you have to put in is definitely minimal, and the return is pretty good. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the best thing to say about it.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this business is still for sale, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for this business listing number, which you can find in the video thumbnail and description. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll find everything you need to know about this business. So, thanks for joining us. See you next time.